The question, why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? Some of you might have heard the report this week about life on an alien planet. Did you see that bit in the news? The planet is called K2-18b. And what they discovered is that there are gases on this planet that on our planet are produced by algae. And scientists have suggested it's the strongest evidence yet for life on some planet other than Earth. Now, it's a long way from here. It's 124 light years. Okay, that doesn't sound like it's too far. Well, a light year is the distance that light travels in a year, which is 5.88 trillion miles. So it's 124 of those light years. Now, other scientists say just calm down a little bit because we still need to get more information, because sometimes you find what you're looking for. And if people are desperately looking for life somewhere, they might just find it when it's not quite there. In fact, that's what some people say about the resurrection. The reason the women and then the disciples believe in the resurrection is because they were looking for it. They were expecting it. And so if you look for something hard enough, you're going to find it. Well, as we saw from the text in the reading today, they weren't looking for life. The women went to the tomb expecting death. They were prepared for death. They brought the spices to anoint Jesus' dead body. And they weren't the only ones. All of the disciples, all of the apostles, all of the Jewish leaders, all of the Gentile leaders, anyone alive in the first century fully expected Jesus to still be dead. And yet when they arrive at the tomb, the stone has been rolled away, and there are two men in dazzling clothes, later identified as angels, who then begin with a question and then a message. The question, why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? It's an amazing question. And then they go on to say, he isn't here. He has risen from the dead. Remember what he told you. And then the women remembered, and they rushed to tell the disciples that what they had forgotten was now true, that Jesus was resurrected from the dead. Today is Resurrection Sunday, or as many people refer to it, Easter Sunday, the day that the world formally recognizes the resurrection from the dead. And we also firmly believe and affirm that Christ is risen. Now, I'm not going to preach a Good Friday sermon. That's a great temptation, but Good Friday is past. At the same time, I don't think the light and life of the resurrection really has its impact until we fully understand how dark and full of death this last week was. The Gospel of Luke has mentioned and focused on reversals throughout the Gospel from the very beginning. The gospel begins with two women getting pregnant, one a postmenopausal woman and a young lady who had never had sex before, and both of them end up pregnant. And Mary exclaims in her song how God has raised up the poor and the outcast and brought down the high and the mighty. The Son of the Most High and Most Powerful, all-powerful God of the universe is born as a helpless baby of a poor family in Israel. Jesus preached that the lost are found and they're welcomed into the kingdom of God. Tax collectors and other sinners will enter the kingdom before the religious, the Pharisees and other religious leaders. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. And even this last week in Jesus' life, this Holy Week, there have been significant reversals. Rick Violas has pointed some of these reversals out, and they go all the way back to the book of Genesis. He notes that Jesus goes to the garden to be obedient to the Father, undoing Adam and Eve's disobedience in the garden. Adam and Eve hide behind a tree, naked and covered in shame, and Jesus hangs on a tree, naked, and conquers shame. Adam and Eve began in paradise, but are forced outside the gates due to the curse. Jesus dies outside the gates, but ends up in paradise due to the cross. Adam and Eve's sin brought a curse of thorns upon all humankind. Jesus wears a crown of thorns as he brings salvation from sin. And so all of those reversals are taking place, and now we come to the greatest reversal of all. He who has died is now risen, and he is risen indeed. The confusion of Jesus' life continues even to our day in the centuries that we live in. We live with confusion about tariffs and immigrants and deportations and a roller coaster stock market. And then the week ended with a school shooting in our very state. And no matter how dark for Jesus or for us this week has been, Sunday comes for Jesus and for us. And today we proclaim Christ is risen. Now, let me clarify that no human ever witnessed the resurrection of Jesus. And I'm not going to give you scientific proofs of why you should believe the resurrection. If you do have doubts or would like to talk about it, please give me a call the office. We can set up a time. I would love to talk to you about it. The women didn't see Jesus rising from the dead, and they didn't even see his resurrected body. What they did see was the stone rolled away and an empty tomb. And that is the testimony that they proclaimed. Their experience was they went to this place expecting death, and they were surprised to find life. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Where do we go to find life in today's world? If we watch TV and listen to the commercials, and some of these might be dated because I don't watch a lot of the commercials now. Go for the Gusto. What was that a commercial for? Beer. Miller High Life, not low life, but the high life. Again, beer. The good life is full of comforts and excess and extravagance. If you have your health, you have everything. And so if you live at the gym, that's where life is to be found. If you live on social media, that's where you can truly have more friends and more likes and more of a social community than anywhere else in the world. If you have wealth, you have it all. The lotto is a wonderful way to try and get ahead, right? All of these things give the appearance of life. Now, I do have a confession. When Catherine was working at Miami-Dade schools, we would play the lotto every year at Christmas time. Now, before you just get too worked up, let me explain. She would get a Christmas card every year that included a couple scratch-offs in it. You know, at first, it didn't dawn on me, but I thought, man, this is a brilliant gift. It only costs a couple bucks. And if the person wins, guess what? You're going to get a whole bunch of money back because they're going to feel just obligated to share with you. Ingenious. Now, we played. Did we ever expect to win? No. I was looking for life in the cemetery of lotto cards. And I found death. There was no life there. But think about where else we look for life among things that are dead. Think about the attitudes that we have towards people and how we find and invigorate our spirits with racism and discrimination and fatal attractions that we know we shouldn't be with this person, and yet our hearts are led and we feel like we have life when actually we find death. How many of us look for life with our cynical attitudes, with our constant sense of worry and preoccupation? Or how many of us live with unchangeable mistakes that we made in the past, and we relive them and we relive them, thinking that we will find some clue to who we are in the past? And Jesus is here to tell us that those places are places of death. The place where the world goes to find life is often where death thrives. And yet, even in those places, Jesus finds us and he comes to bring life. Jesus brings us life in cemeteries, as he did with these ladies and the disciples. He gives us life where we least expect it, in funeral homes and cancer treatment centers and hospitals. He gives life to people in homeless shelters, in food banks and prisons. Everywhere we look, if we look with eyes of faith, we will see Jesus bringing life. The stone that was stifling the life of Jesus has been rolled away. You know, that stone wasn't designed to open back up. The only people who would want to open the stone of a grave would be a grave robber. So they made it difficult to open. It's not like a door that swings back and forth. Once it's rolled shut, it was designed to stay shut forever. And yet Jesus now, with that stone rolled away, is free from the darkness, the despair, and the death that was inside that tomb. And because Jesus is raised, we also can be raised. And because Jesus is raised, that means our sins can be forgiven. And because Jesus is raised, death is not the final conqueror and is not the final word. Because Jesus is raised, Satan's doom is actually sealed and sure. No one knows it more than Satan. He lives on borrowed time. And no matter how many times he affects our lives and how many times he interjects himself in our lives and how many times he makes our lives miserable, he knows, as well as we as people of faith, that his time is coming. And Jesus' life, the life that he offers us, will never end. And so if you are looking for life, look no more than the Jesus that we've just read about, the Jesus that we all follow, because Jesus is life, and what a wonderful life it is. Now, I do want to clarify, Jesus doesn't always give us the life that we want. Jesus doesn't promise us a life of comfort. He doesn't promise us a life of riches. He doesn't even promise us a long, healthy life. What Jesus does promise is forgiveness from our past, power to face our future. He offers us a family, and this family is sitting around you today. And at moments when we're going through difficulty and challenges, and when Satan has found a way to enter into our lives, Jesus gives us a family to support and encourage. He gives us forgiveness, he gives us a family, and then he gives us a future. That future home that he has gone to prepare for us, where he is now waiting for us to get there, where all those that have gone before us are also waiting. That future is also awaiting each one of us. And it's all based on this resurrection. Because if Christ is not risen, then we of all people, Paul says, are the most miserable of all. And so today on this Easter Sunday, let me encourage you to find life where life can be found. And that's in the person of Jesus himself.